Grand Prix Project podcast.
Once again, to the Grand Prix Project with me, your host Andre Miller, and my big bro.
All right, I'm going to use my government this time. Neil, a.k.a. Thanos. What's up?
What's good? Wow.
Trying to figure out how we're going to record a podcast after that with Race Marcus. Boy, that was a disappointment. It was drab. It was boring. I don't even see what stories there. Well, there's a few stories still, but yeah, it wasn't that great.
Well, now that we got the negatives out,
we haven't even touched the negatives yet.
All right. It gets more negative than that. Yeah, let's start. Let's start from just get right into it. Dominant record-setting pole position lap. He pulled that one out of the bag.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not the biggest Max Verstappen fan, but at the end of the day, when people do great things, you have to recognize great things and you have to tip your hat to him because, leading up until that lap, you probably thought the most he'd probably qualify is probably on the second row, him and George on the second row. And when you saw that lap that Lando did, you're like, damn, who's going to beat that? And to beat it by 12 thousandths of a second, yeah. Because there's this side by side ghost run with him and Lando, and pretty much you could see where Max was making up most of his time. It was on the straights and in the braking zones, right? And if you look at going into the last chicane, he just braked as late as he possibly could and just carried as much speed into the corner and that was it. Gone. I'm like, was he carrying more speed or less speed? But he braked really, really late. And he just had a good exit. And I think that's what gave him the advantage, to just nail it. And you kind of where did that come from? And that set the record for 4 straight poles at that circuit. I believe no one has ever done that before. So, like I said, I don't really like the guy, but you have to tip your hat to him and say, yo, job well done, mate. Job well done. But, at the same time, it feels like whilst the Max lap was good, I'm wondering if it felt like McLaren underperformed in that qualifying session. As good as Max lap was, that McLaren is still a better car than the Red Bull.
And maybe they have the best car, but the wrong drivers.
True. Case in point, it's not like we've not seen that before. 2008, Felipe Massa in that Ferrari, that the right car, but just the wrong driver. You know what I mean? Yeah, but he did his thing. Hats off to him. Qualifying was pretty much. I don't think there was really that much surprise in qualifying outside of him. So, the Charles bagged P4. Again, I think his P4 came more at the expense of that mistake that George had, and his final run going into. When he went into turn 1, exited turn 1, he had a big snapper oversteer, and that pretty much he had to carry that all the way through to sector 1, to qualify where he did, which is P5. Because again, you looked at the whole qualifying session, Q1 and Q2. You'd think if anybody was going to challenge the McLarens, it was probably going to be George in that Mercedes. And that because he did at one point a lap where he's like, yo, okay, George is in the mix for this, because he was on less than a tenth behind at times. So, I think for him, it might have been a bit disappointing because he felt like, I think there was pace in it to at least be ahead of the Ferrari at Charles, because he only missed out by, Charles was like, 3.5 tenths off pole. George was just over 4 tenths. So the margin between him and Charles wasn't that great. So I felt like, had he gotten the lap done properly, error-free, he probably would have been starting on the second row next to Piastri, but instead started next to his teammate, the young whippersnapper Antonelli. So, yeah.
It's funny you said that, right? I remember, I think we had a conversation briefly on one of the previous episodes when I mentioned that when you think about greats, right? And what really qualify you as a great, or a driver, or anyone as a great. Sometimes it's not really the big things, it's just those little tiny things, right? And I say that to say, when you think about when you said George was in the mix, but when it came down to it, error was there, right? But when you think about like a Max, when it comes down to it, when you think about Lewis in his prime, when you thought about Vettel in their prime, when it came down to those crunch time, they're next to never make mistakes.
Yeah, it goes back to this thing I always say. If you listen to my spaces, I always say the difference between the great and the good is not a huge margin.
Yeah, it's
that small final percent. The greats, the good can find that small percent on the odd occasion. The greats, they find it consistently. It's like second nature to them. So like you just said, in a situation like that, you saw why Max was great. In a situation like that, you would have seen
the conversation of being a great.
Yeah, why is in the conversation. In situations like that, you see why Lewis is considered a great, because again, and Vettel and as we call them, MotoGP term, the aliens. It's because they know
crunch time moment.
When it comes down to crunch time, one lap, they're gonna go out there and they're gonna nail it. They're gonna get it done.
Whatever happens, hey man, you didn't do something happened as to why you only getting one run in the last part of quali. You're only going to get this warm up lap, and then you got to go for it.
Yeah,
and that's when the greats actually come alive. When they actually, you be like, hey, yeah, that's a great lap. That sits on the Mount Rushmores, right?
Yeah,
and that's what I look at a lot of times to say. Yeah, that's what I look at a lot of time. That's the why I brought it up again, because I'm like, man, we've seen it so many times. Whereas when the greats come alive, right, or when it's crunch time, the clock is against him, they just consistently put it together.
Yeah, because they've been in such environment on a regular basis. It's second nature to them, and I think this is where Lando, has to learn, because this is not his normal environment. Being at the front of the grid, being looked at as a title favorite, driving one of arguably the best car on the grid right now, and he has to deal with that pressure. And I think this is where Max also has the advantage, because Max has been here before. He's done that, so he knows what it takes to get the job done. Lando and Oscar, they have to learn this now. This is uncharted territory for them. And I think that's where Max is at. And it's not even just Max. And I think this is where Max and Red Bull's experience will play a key part in how the championship is decided come year end.
Yeah, and the thing is for Lando, where he's got to get it together quick and just whatever he needs to find, just find it, whatever it takes.
Mm-hmm.
You know how crazy he's going to look if this McLaren is showing this kind of pace and at the end of the season he's not champion?
Yeah.
And again, crazy.
and if that happens at some point, people at McLaren are probably going to look at him like, yo, you might not be the guy.
Yeah, because
you're not that guy. Huh?
Yep. Yeah, because they're going to be like, well, we we made the car.
Yeah. So you just had to, we fulfilled our end of the bargain. No, you have to go out there and deliver for us because you wanted a quick car. We built you a quick car. So,
which comes back
is he
to our
that
start of
guy?
the conversation. Yeah, which comes back to our start of the conversation. Is he that guy to, when his back is against it, to actually find that extra tenth, or to not make the mistake in the final corner, or cook it at just put it together because you're that guy.
Yeah, well, again, this is why this season is so crucial for him, because he may never get this opportunity again. Because we don't know, with the change of regulations next year, it's likely that you never know. It could be Mercedes being top of the tree again next year. And it's end up being a George versus Kimi Antonelli for a championship, which more likely will probably go to George. So Lando now has this opportunity. He has to seize it. And if he doesn't, like you said, if he loses the championship to Max, driving that Red Bull, he's gonna have to live with that water, man.
Yeah, because he's probably gonna go down as driver with the fastest car to lose a championship.
No, we've seen that before.
Not saying the only. I'm saying in this era, because everyone who in this era who actually got the car, they went on and took a chip with it, right?
Yeah. Well.
So yeah, but let's see let's see how the season pans out for Lando, because he's under pressure.
Yep. Right? And the thing is, he's trying to deflect. Pressure. He's trying to deflect and saying, Max is the favorite and whatnot, but you can't. We can see with our own two eyes what the situation is.
He could say whatever he wants. Mm-hmm. Ultimately, this is how Formula One is, our motorsport, right? You're going to say you got the fastest car, so you're expected to win.
Yeah, but as you say, sometimes having the fastest car don't guarantee you're going to win, because the fastest car requires the fastest driver.
It's like I always say, that extra tenth that broke the driver's back, right?
It's that straw, isn't it? It's that straw.
Those lights shine different up there.
Hey, right? It's a different ball game when you're at the front of the grid now. It's not the midfield where you can hide and
you can't hide nowhere. There's nowhere to hide.
Exactly.
So you just got to deliver the goods, man. As you already know, I'm not super confident in Lando to bring home a championship. So let's see if I'm wrong on that. And I got my reasons why. I've mentioned my reasons why many times before, so we're not even going to get into that. But let's see. I want him to prove me wrong, right? Because at the end of the day, he's put in the work. He's in the team now. But hey, man, you got to go out there and do it. I'm not just going to say, well, nothing is. It's not an entitlement. You know what I'm saying? Mm-hmm. You got to go out there and get that thing. You got the car under you. Show that talent. Go do your thing.
Yep.
That's where I'm at with it. But yeah, so there's not even much to speak about on Saturday qualifying. Max just took the cake.
Yeah, but let's not forget one thing and we don't want to leave him off the list. Lewis, again, another disappointing qualifying session. But we'll get into that, as to what his issues are. But at the same time, he said something post-qualifying that have me like, yeah, I don't want to have to deal with this again. He's saying, the car felt fine and, qualifying is an issue. He just needs to go out there and whatever. And I'm like, we heard that. Yeah, we heard it for like his last 3 years at Mercedes. I was willing to give him the benefit of the doubt at that point in time that, it's a car, it's definitely a car issue. But if that carries over to Ferrari, we're going to have to ask the question. Yeah, we're going to have to stop saying, it's a car thing and it's probably a Lewis thing, you know what I mean? But at the same time, he put it on pole in the sprint race in China. Granted, yeah, he probably shouldn't have been on pole if the McLaren had actually utilized the machinery well, like they did in that.
Once again, who? Mm-hmm. Once again, who? Okay, there you go. There you go. So without even talking about him, we could actually just having a conversation about a whole separate driver team, and they come back in the mix, effing up. So Yeah, but continue.
Yeah. So, because as a Lewis Hamilton fan, as you can see, rocking my Sorayama from last year merch. Thanks to my girl.
Is that the one with the helmet in the back? Silver helmet in the back?
Yeah, that's the one with that. This is from last year. Shout out and thanks to my girl Akinos. She sent me this one. So much love. Yeah, much love to my girl Akinos. Even though me and her beef all the time, but it's always love. Yeah. So I just don't want to get to that point where I'm gonna have to start questioning Lewis's ability. Because if it gets to that point, then I'm gonna be saying, you know what? It's time you leave, Lewis. And just pack it up. We don't want you to go down the Alonso path, just hanging around Formula One as a dead weight. You know what I mean?
Man, bruh, can you just leave Alonso alone?
No, but I mean, guy's been here since 2000 and when did he join Formula One? He did a stint at Minardi. Then he went and became the test driver for Renault. I think it was 2003. Came in 2004. So he's pretty much been here for nearly 20. He's been in the sport for 23 years. Yeah, it's time he goes now, man. Time he goes. But we'll talk about that, do it at some point. Yeah.
Yeah.
But yeah. So anyway, as you can see from our notes, McLaren race day, right? Did McLaren lose that race? Because we realized that it was really hard to overtake on that track, given that the margins between the cars were so close in terms of performance. Only one driver in the top 10 had an overtake. Only one position change in the top 10. And that was Lewis and Isaac Adjar. That was the only overtake that happened in the top 10. The whole entire race.
That's bad.
That's terrible. It was pretty much so processional. So, but, going back to the original question, did McLaren's strategic blunder cost them that race? Because I think they had two choices.
Yeah, that's what I was just going to ask you. Tell me what would have been how did you see it?
They messed it up. And here how they messed it up. At first I was kind of saying what they should have done. They should have either first pitted before Max, or when Max pitted, go along with Lando, because clean air is king. And if you look at Kimi Antonelli's pace, he was still doing good lap times, and he went much longer than everybody else. So, and I'm sure Lando, and given the performance of the tires, that the delta between the two tire compounds was so small, they pretty much mirror each other. I felt like he still had enough tires left. He could have gone out and gone like, you know what, Max pits, let's go longer, create a tire offset, right?
Yeah.
And then,
yeah, go on.
And then create some form of tire offset. Maybe go 4, 5, or 6 laps longer. Granted, yeah, he's probably going to lose some time to Max, because Max is going to be on fresh hard tires, and obviously he's going to put in some lap time to try and increase that deficit to the point where when Lando pits, he has a bigger gap he has to close down.
But at least
they could have done that.
He's winning. At least give him in that situation. At least he gets a shot.
Yeah,
because I never understood when you're on a track where you cannot overtake. It's not like he's eating into the Max's lead and then you mirror what the guy in front of you does.
Yeah,
I just never understood it.
I was surprised when I saw both of them pit at the same time, because the next option would have been pit before Max. Because there was a point in the race where they said to him, I think the gap was about 1.8 seconds, and they went pit opposite Max. But then once he got close to the final chicane, they went stay out. Now I'm thinking, in that regard, maybe they should have pitted him. Find him a gap, because they found Oscar a gap, right? Because I think this is what I think they did. they reacted to George. I think they reacted to George with Oscar when they pitted Oscar first, because they pitted Oscar before Lando, right? So that put Lando now in a situation whereby he would have to pit. And I think that's why Lando had to pit, because if he hadn't pitted, Oscar would have probably leapfrogged him based on the fact that he stayed out long. He pitted before him. But at the same time, I think Oscar came back out in some kind of traffic, because when Max and Lando finally pitted, they still came out ahead of him. But the thing is, if they'd either tried the undercut, because I'm sure the McLaren would have had enough pace to close on a 1 point something gap, I would have forced Max to respond. You never know, maybe they'd have come back out behind him, maybe 3/10 or whatever it is. But at least give yourself a chance. But they did the exact same strategy. The moment they pitted Oscar first, it left Lando only two options. Either you go long or you pit him before Max. But pitting him and Max at the same time was never going to work. What they were relying on in that scenario was they had a quicker pit stop than Max. And hope Max had which he actually did. Because that's the reason why they came out so side by side, because Max lost a second in his pit stop. Because when he pitted, I think the gap was 1.5 seconds. So he lost like a second in his pit stop. That's why they came out so close. But
it wasn't enough.
It wasn't enough. So that in that situation,
and actually putting your hopes in one of the best team on the grid in terms of pit stops, that's also crazy.
Exactly. So
that's crazy.
I think they made a strategic blunder, and I think that's what cost them the race. Because on Sunday, I was kind of like, when I was thinking about it, I was like, if they had gone long, the likelihood is when Lando pitted, he would have come back out behind Oscar. But then when I think about it, he probably wouldn't have. And even if he did come back out behind Oscar, he would have a tire offset that should basically give him an advantage. And then it would be up to the team to go, Oscar, move out of the way.
And if that happened, they just did what they did. Was it Hungary?
Hungary, yeah. Just tell Oscar, move out of the way.
Just get out of the way, yeah.
Move out of the way. Let Lando go, because he has a tire advantage. Let's see what he can do.
Yeah, but he should have been the first one that got service anyway. But based on strategy, so it would have been easy for them to just move him out of the way.
Yeah, which is why I think they reacted to George pitting. That's why they pit Oscar. But then when George pitted, George came out in traffic. So it really didn't matter. You know what I mean? Yeah, McLaren definitely blundered that one away. That, they're probably going to sit back and look at this and think, if we were to run this race again, we'd definitely do it differently this time around. But again, you'd think for a team that won the Constructors' title last year, these sort of things would be...
It would have been a dress rehearsal for this year, right?
Mm-hmm.
To go full on assault, but
so now Max winning that race has cut the gap down to what? 1 point.
Speaking of that, right? What was your take on both of them coming out of pits? Lando tried it, in my opinion.
Yeah, which he had to. Fair enough, but I still think Max kind of made a little jink to the right. They say he didn't, but if you look on the onboard, there's a slight jink to the right.
Even if he didn't, Lando is going straight to the grass. Because it's only a one. Obviously, he's going straight to the grass. He tried it, and what that did as well is it opened up the gap by the time they actually exited.
Yeah, but it wasn't really that big of a gap, to be honest. Because
come on, we're dealing with Formula One, right?
Mm-hmm.
Grass trekking cost him a little, right? And he just
but it didn't really. But it really did impact on his race, because again, he caught back up to him within no time. So I don't think it really had that impact, to be honest.
I think even in that type of situation, and that's my problem, right? With Lando. At that point, you're that close to him. Don't play no stupid games, bro. Just stick as close to him as you possibly can.
I disagree.
He was going to gain from that.
I
He was
disagree.
going to go in the grass either way.
I disagree with that. I disagree.
So,
I
let
think
me
I
ask
think
this.
he had to do something, and he tried something. It's better to try something than just sit there and nothing at all.
But
And as
what?
he say, oh, okay, he was
What
going to
did he
go on the
try?
grass. I remember seeing Ocon passing Kimi Antonelli in China by driving on the half his car on the grass. So you never know. It could
That's
have
a half.
worked.
The whole McLaren was on that grass.
Fair enough. Which is why I said Max definitely jinked a little bit to the right. He did.
But that's the
People don't want
problem.
to accept it, but he did jink a little bit to the
Even
right.
if he did, right? So let me ask this. And this, once again, I don't want to go back to Lando. I don't want to feel like I'm being unfair on the guy, right? You're telling me that he still doesn't know who he's racing with? If he knows the guy that he knows that's going to come.
Yeah, but at the same time, just because he's that sort of driver doesn't mean you shouldn't try.
Not saying that he shouldn't, but he already knows, right? So
Yeah,
sometimes you got to figure out something. You have to come up with a different strategy. When you know what you're dealing with, sometimes you got to figure out a different type of strategy.
But I think he did, because I'm not sure Max would have expected him to try it right there.
I just don't know, man. I when I saw it, I'm like, yeah, bro, you were gonna go in the grass. I've always so.
Yeah, because I think it's due to how the nature of that pit exit is. He was always going to go into the grass, always, because Max pretty much, as I said, that slight jink from Max put his car pretty much in the middle. So Max is saying, well, you can't go to my left, because if you go to my left, you're gonna go over the pit exit line, which means you're gonna get a penalty. You can't go right, which means if you go right, you're going to have to go on the grass to pass, man. We know that's not going to happen. So
you end up in the grass aggressively, right?
Yeah, but again, you can't fault him for trying something. At least he tried something.
It's. I just didn't see. I'm not even driving, and I could tell that I wasn't going to get anywhere.
Yeah, okay, we can agree. We can agree that it wasn't going to work, but at the same time, he did try something. It's better than not trying anything at all, because the strategy had already been screwed up.
But what if he had gone on the grass and then damaged his car?
Well, then he pays the price for it.
I think he's got a problem with calculating stuff, bro. But as I say, I don't want to go back to him. But yeah, that was when I heard him on the radio. I'm like, nah, bro, you tried. There's nothing coming out of that.
Yeah, nothing was going to come out of it. But as I say, I think if you watch Max's onboard, Max definitely jinked a little bit to the right in that moment.
Yeah. But yeah, that's that Max went on to win. As we say, it was a boring race. One overtaking the top 10. That's crazy. Yuki.
I mean, they pretty much ran the same gap the whole 53 laps. Him and Lando pretty much ran the same 1.5. I think the lead got up to over 2 seconds at one point, but that was early in the race, and then Lando decided, okay, let's up the pace, and he closed that down. They ran pretty much the whole entire race separated by 1.5. The top three basically separated by just 2 seconds.
And at that point, I think Max, knowing the track he's on, he just needs to keep a certain gap, put his car in the right place, and he's going to win the race.
It's not only that. I think with that track, to overtake, you need to have a significant pace advantage. That's the only way you're going to overtake at that track. I mean, because we've seen in previous years, similar thing.
He has to have that Kimi pace, that Raikkonen pace back.
Yeah, well, that's if we had the Raikkonens of those sort of cars from 05 in this one, then that'll be fine. But you need, at this track, it's become extremely difficult to overtake. And I think the reason why overtaking is so difficult now is the brakes are too good on these cars, which means the braking zones are shorter. So I saw a tweet today that perfectly explained it from one of my followers, F1 technician. And he said a Formula One car can brake from 200 miles per hour down to, 50 miles per hour in 90 meters. Do you know how much deceleration that is in such a short space? So because the braking zones are so short and the brakes are so efficient, you can't create opportunities to overtake unless you have a significant, and around Suzuka, you need to be at least half a second a lap quicker than the car you're chasing for you to pass them. If you're a 10th, 2/10, you're not going to pass. Look at Oscar. There was a moment Oscar came out of the final chicane, half a second behind Lando. Got DRS, but couldn't pass him going into turn one because there wasn't that pace difference between the two of them. So, yeah,
So let me ask you this. Based on what we saw at Suzuka yesterday, right? It's a bit off topic, but I got to ask it as it's on my mind. Give me 4 other tracks where you think there's a possibility we're going to get this type of racing.
What? Processional racing?
Yeah. Which you think is a guaranteed, like...
Well, I mean, top of the list definitely is Monaco.
Monaco, yeah.
Definitely top of the list. Let me look at the calendar. And I'll tell you. I was going to say Miami. Probably Imola is going to be one of them. So Imola, Monaco, Canada. Yeah, I'm going to say Canada. And Singapore is a guaranteed. Definitely Singapore. Yeah, I think that's it. That's it for me.
I think we're definitely gonna get more overtaking at Singapore than what we had in Suzuka.
No, I don't think so, because Singapore is pretty much, again, you only have one overtaking spot in Singapore, and that's the run out of was it turn 4 down to turn 6, I believe it is, that where the second DRS zone is.
Yeah, it's one of them trap, but I'll put money that we're gonna get more overtaking in Singapore than we got in Japan.
Well, let's wait and see. Because and we probably could end up with the same thing in the Netherlands as well. But then again, might not, because I think the good thing with Netherlands is the run out onto the back straight. It's not a slow chicane and followed by, I think there's a slow chicane, but there's enough run up to that last corner that banker that slingshots you down to turn 1. So
we're talking about
those
Zandvoort,
are my
right?
ones.
Zandvoort, right? We're talking about Zandvoort, right?
Zandvoort. Yeah, I think those are mine. Yeah.
Okay.
Cool.
Yeah, because I was just thinking about it. I'm like, man, I'm sure we're gonna get a couple of this before the season ends, and
oh, most definitely.
It was bad. It was bad. I was sitting there and I'm like, should have gone to my bed.
Yeah,
man. You could have see this.
You know, it reminded me of Schumacher days. You wake up in anticipation of, something good happening, knowing that nothing good's gonna happen, and then you start watching and you realize, I should have gone back to my bed. That was terrible.
So let's move on to we mentioned him briefly. You said you were going to mention something that he said Hamilton. I saw the interview as well where he's talking about some part. Is it a part on the car?
Yeah, he said because again it was so strange. He couldn't keep pace with Antonelli. The closest Lewis got to Antonelli was in the first stint. He got within 1.2 seconds. And then after that lead, the gap just blew up to over 4 seconds.
I was surprised by that, because when you pit it, I'm like, okay, well, at least we could have a run-in with the Mercedes. And then I saw that gap growing. I'm like, what the hell?
And he was on the medium tires, which shows you, again, the compounds were too close in performance.
That's what I was thinking, because when I saw him on the medium, I'm like, okay, he's going to do some damage now.
Yeah, I thought, he's going to have the pace where he could get Antonelli and probably even get George.
Boy,
at one point.
I'm sitting there and I'm looking like, is something wrong with his car? I'm like, he's on. Huh?
No, carry on.
No, I'm saying when I saw that he pitted for the mediums, I was thinking like, okay, he's gonna come alive now. I waited, and it just did not happen. Antonelli just stretched that gap. I could not believe it.
Yo, he got DRS a couple of times, and after couldn't get him
Once he
into
dropped
turn
out of
one.
the DRS zone, that was it.
Yeah, once he couldn't get him into turn one, that was. I feel like, you know what? Even if he had gotten past Antonelli, looking at Kimi's pace, Kimi probably would have gotten him back.
And I was looking
Honestly.
I saw a couple.
Honestly.
Probably would. I saw a couple. When Lewis was chasing him down. It's either, from what I'm saying, he uses a lot of the track. And Antonelli, because at one point I'm like, is he going off track? Because he's all the way, like he uses like all the track that he's supposed to, that's there for him.
Yeah.
I was looking at him like, wow. So he's.
I think you're
finding a lot
talking
of
about
laps
when he's coming out of Spoon. Because I
Yeah,
think
he's- yeah,
that's where
did he
most
run
of
off the
the
track?
thing is. Yeah, I think Spoon is an unusual corner. You tend to want to run as wide as possible. Coming out of Spoon, so yeah, that's pretty much standard. But what I'm saying is, Lewis got that DRS a couple times, and then the kid just drove away from him. And I'm looking at the gap going from 1 second, 2 seconds, 3 seconds, 4 seconds, 5 seconds, and I'm like, what's going on? What's wrong? But to then now hear him come after the race and give the interview and saying, there's a deficient part. I think he said deficient or inefficient part on his car. That's basically not on Charles's car, and which costing him about a 10th per lap. And he's like, well, knowing that the gap is so close between me and Charles, and if this is what's happening despite this issue, then I'm somewhat pleased. So when that comes in, when that part gets replaced and everything's equal across the garage, then hopefully his performance will improve. But then he then went on and said in another interview that there's an issue with the floor. Now, I've been having this conversation with me and Kingsley for like 2 days now. And I'm thinking, Charles isn't having the issue. Is Charles having the same issue with his floor? I've not heard any stories that says he is. So my thing is, if Lewis is having an issue with the floor, why not change it? Why not change it and use a spare one? Now, Kingsley, my spaces, they said we're brothers. I don't know why they said that. But he's saying, well, they have a planned upgrade coming in Bahrain. So it doesn't make any sense than building a spare floor, which I'm saying, well, that don't really make any sense to me. Because again, what if one of those drivers had a massive crash and damaged the one floor they have? Not having a spare floor means that then they can't race and participate in the next race. And no team will go into a season without having at least one spare floor. Right?
Yeah.
So if
That's risky
Lewis
business.
is having an issue,
That's risky business.
Exactly. And to me, that's incompetence. Sorry, I can't, there's no other way I can swing that.
Hold on,
because
let me ask you this. Is it when you say, because from what Kingsley's saying, there's a upgrade coming in Bahrain, right? And you're saying, why didn't they change the floor from now?
Yeah, because Lewis said the problem he's been having is started from the beginning of the season.
So let me ask you this. Do you know if that floor is actually ready?
Well, the reports are that they'll have the floor ready for this weekend as planned. But then there are other conflicting stories where Fred is saying before they can talk about upgrades, they need to find the right balance for the car, etc., etc. And I'm like, yo, you guys seem all over the place. What is it? Is the floor going to rectify the balance issue? Or do you have a serious balance issue that you believe even if you put a new floor on, the upgraded floor that's coming in Bahrain won't change that? So which is it? I don't know.
Yeah, because that's why I asked that question, because at the end of the day, saying is good and right, saying change the floor now, but I'm thinking maybe the floor is not even ready.
No, when I say change the floor, I don't mean change it to the updated one.
Yeah.
I meant like you come into the season, you have two cars. So the spare floor would be the same specification as the one they're running now, right? So if Lewis has an issue with his floor starting the season, and Charles isn't having that same issue with his floor, then why not just put the spare floor on Lewis's car? Because what that says is it's a manufacturing defect. Because both floors are the exact same specification. And if one isn't functioning properly, but the other one is functioning properly, that means one of them wasn't manufactured properly. So then just switch it over for the same specification spare floor, put it on Lewis's car, and go racing.
That's what I was just going to ask you, because saying that's what I was going to say. I'm thinking there should be the same specification. Yeah. So unless it's a manufacturing defect, or unless it's not, and they know that, and they're like, okay, this floor just is not working for you.
No, but that's what I'm saying. It doesn't make any sense that the floor would work for one person but not the other. It's the exact same specification. So the cars are pretty much identical. The only difference in terms of everything, the only difference between the cars is how they're set up. And again, this is what is a bit confusing to me, because Charles struggled in the China sprint race, right? Lewis didn't. He moved over to Lewis's setup, and in the race, night and day difference.
With 3/4 of a car.
Yeah. Lewis changed his setup, altered his setup a little bit in the main race of China, and completely struggled. So you wondering, okay, what's going on?
So let me ask you this. So, because this is something that's been coming on from his latter days at Mercedes, right? There seems to be a lot of setup changes going on with his car, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I get it, because at the end of the day, I'm sure like the sprint setup is totally different from the race setup, possibly, right?
Yeah, because it's a much longer race, more
fuel, all of that stuff, right?
Yeah.
So that's one of the common thing that I've been hearing with Lewis. It's just there's always constant setup changes going on. Would you agree?
Yeah, but I don't think that's new. He's done it. He did it whilst he was at Mercedes, even when he was winning.
Right, because you know what? Before I even forget, let me ask you this. Before I even forget, do you think Ferrari should have just continued with the same car from last year and develop it through this year? Actually, because now that I'm thinking about it, I would say I need to ask you, do you think Ferrari should have just kept the car that they knew worked? The car that they knew works from last year and just carried over into this year and then build on top of it?
Look, what the question you just asked me is the exact same thing I commented on in my space on Sunday after the race. Ferrari, of the top teams, were the only one that turned up with a completely new concept car. It's the final year of a set of regulations. I can understand the idea of, you know what, let's go for broke. But the problem with going for broke is you're hedging your bets.
I know. Basically. Only that, we already know going for broke with F1, you can't really go off just what you see on the sim and all this stuff, right? Usually what's on track gives you the true picture of what's going on, right?
But bro.
So why would
Ferrari? But bro, Ferrari's been going for broke for years and it's never paid off.
I'm surprised they ain't broke. I'm telling you.
They've been going for broke for years and it has never paid off. So my thing is, okay, I can understand the reasoning behind it, but at the same time, I'm looking at it like, yo, you had a concept last year that finished the season strongly. You finished 14 points off winning the championship. Charles scored the most points in the second half of the season than anybody. So you have a momentum going into the new year, into the winter.
With a concept that you know works.
With a concept that works. Here's weird. To me, the whole things get like completely out of whack, because one of the theories I'm hearing is, well, that car had reached its development ceiling. And I'm like, sorry, what? That quickly? After a year? So you're telling me when they designed that car, they didn't design such a wide envelope where the development path of that car is huge. It was that limited. So after a year, you basically say, yeah, it's not good anymore. Okay, so you decide to go to a new concept, and obviously, any new concept is going to be quicker than the previous year's car. That's pretty much, I'd say, a fact. But you turn up this year with a car that's now the fourth fastest car on the grid, easily.
So I got all the questions, right? So let me ask you this now, right? When was the last time? Because if Ferrari's saying that, oh well, we reached that development, we plateaued on that concept, right?
Mm-hmm.
When was the last time Red Bull changed your car?
Well, I mean, if you look at what Red Bull did from 2022, right? They found a solid base foundation, right? And whilst they might have changed concept, the underpinnings of every car thereafter is based on what they found in 2022.
So it's got the same DNA.
So it has the same DNA. So it's an evolution. So it's a somewhat. They didn't think about reinventing the wheel.
Oh, so it's the core concepts remain the same.
The core concept is pretty much, I'd say, still there, because that's what there was. So they built on that. That's why they dominated 2023. The RB20 was an evolution of the RB19. Okay, they developed some issues in this from Miami onwards, and the McLaren took a step forward, etc., as well as Ferrari and Mercedes, etc., etc. But at the same time, even this car they have now, the RB21, is pretty much kind of like, again, it's from the same family tree, same DNA, because during testing, what they were doing, they were using front wing and nose design from the RB, I believe it was the RB20 or the RB19 and the RB21. So it shows that there's some sort of continuity with the philosophy or the underpinning foundation that they developed from the RB17, because 2021 was a 16B, from the RB17 in 2022. It's only Mercedes, right? If you look at it, the teams who should have been Mercedes were the one who started these regulations, probably the worst, and probably McLaren to some extent, yeah. But McLaren started to get an understanding. In 2023, the car, after Austria, they brought an upgrade to Austria, and they brought the final piece to Silverstone. The car kind of like took a step forward. But during that whole development phase, they realized, hold on, that part, if we go down this path, we can find actually more performance. So they scrapped the development, I think, during the winter, and moved on a different development path concept, which is why they started last season not with the car they wanted to start the season with. So the car that turned up from Miami onwards is what they should have started the season with, right? So for this year, they pretty much kind of like evolved that concept. And that's what I was looking at with Ferrari. I'm thinking, why try to reinvent the wheel? And when Ferrari tries to reinvent a wheel, it doesn't become a circular wheel, it's a rectangle. That's the sort of wheels that Ferrari develops. The whole thing is just confusing to me because, again, like I said, you finished second in the championship. You're 14 points. That's the closest you've come in to win a Constructors' Championship since they won it in 2008. That's the closest they've come. And they probably would have won it if, again, Ferrari wasn't Ferrari and doing what they always do, which is screw up. Because there was a run from Canada to, I think it's Spa last year. I think it was 5 races where the performances were absolutely terrible. That's where they dropped all those points. If they had a better run from that period onwards, they probably would have won the Constructors finally. So the whole Ferrari thing, so going back to, which then now we go back to Lewis and the issues he's having. Because he's saying it's a component. Then he says it's the floor. But my argument is, if it's the floor, surely there's a spare floor that was built. Why not just use that spare floor? Because if Charles isn't having the same issues with his floor, then clearly it's a manufacturing defect. I've not heard any reports saying Charles is having any issue with his floor. So maybe he's having the same problem, but not to the same extent as Lewis, which then means there's two things happening to Lewis's car. The floor isn't a problem, and there's another part that's not efficient, isn't working properly. But it works fine on Charles's car.
Because aren't they carrying this issue where they're still saying the car run that car too low?
Yeah. I saw them guys, I was thinking they call Fun Analytica, the Italian guys. Apparently, and again, they took a risk in where is it? In China. Because what did Lewis get disqualified for again? Charles got disqualified for underweight, right?
Yeah, Lewis got disqualified for plank. We're plank.
Yeah, Lewis got this. Yeah. So apparently they took a. So apparently they decided to take a risk with Lewis's car and run it low. So it seems like they probably knew the likelihood was Lewis's plank was going to wear beyond the legal limit and he was going to get disqualified. Pardon. So they used him as a test dummy. So now these guys, they published an article today. Anybody listening this 2 days from now, they published an article 8th of April, right? And they said apparently it's 3 millimeters. It's 3 millimeters that it's outside of the height, ride height that they want to run it at. 3 millimeters. You know how small it's 3 millimeters, bro? 3 millimeters. So now when they come to Bahrain this weekend and that package goes on, I think it's do or die for their season.
But don't you find it alarming also that even though they ran it low, it was still slow? Right, if you're gonna get disqualified for being fast. At least okay. At least we know it's fast in that trim. Even when you run it low where it's illegal, where it became illegal
slow.
By the end of the race, it's still slow. That's crazy.
But you see the problem there now, because again, Lewis made alterations to his car. Was that alteration dropping that ride height? Was Charles's moving over to Lewis' setup was raising the ride height? Whatever, because the problem with these cars is to get performance, you have to run it as close as possible to the ground. So think about it. A 3 millimeter ride height clearance determines the level of performance. So if your ideal ride height is off by 3 millimeters, they're going to be slow as hell. Well, I don't think we can say that yet. I think we have to give them an opportunity to.
When I say fundamental, because it means it will be for both cars. Let me say, there's probably something, as you say, there's something that they find that isn't working well for Lewis. Let's see if they fix it. But not that. In all my years watching racing, whether it be F1, MotoGP, Superbike, well, not bikes, because it's there's no communication. All the car racing, I've never heard someone ask, "Hey, where am I slow?"
Yeah, I mean, it's pretty much it's standard for Lewis to ask. If you watch,
no. Let me finish. It wasn't the question that I found hilarious. It was the answer when he said, I said 16, 17, 18. I'm like, this car is slow.
Yeah, but you see that again. That's pretty standard of Lewis. He's always if he's chasing somebody, and the times they're relaying the times to him, and he's like, yeah, okay, where am I losing? He wants to know where he's losing time so he can try and make it up. So
that's cool. I'm just making a light joke of it, because what I'm saying is that tells you the type of day he was having.
Yeah, and the thing is, and you know what? when he heard that, when I heard that, I think I tweeted, "Yo, Lewis, just don't ask him any question, man, because you're slow no matter what. It's not like you're gonna make up that time. Just finish the race, man. Just like,
slow,
yeah,
like Yeah, man was slow. And man said 16, 17, 18, whatever the numbers were. I'm looking at, yeah, he's having a bad day.
Yeah, and the thing is, when he's telling him that he's that slow, he's probably like already 6 seconds behind Kimi and like, yo, bro, call it a day, man. Just drive, just finish the radio communications and just like drive to the end of the race and that's it. Because yeah, you're not gonna do anything from here. But again, this Bahrain upgrade package is going to be crucial to where this team goes this year. And look, I'm no expert. I'm no era expert. I'm none of these stuff. I'm just one of those, we say, uninformed sort of fan, opinionated fan of the sport. But I'm looking at it from a perspective of, you came that close last year. Why go for revolution rather than evolution? Because now, put it this way, Mercedes have double the points as Ferrari. Red Bull, Ferrari has 35 points. Mercedes has 75. Yeah, McLaren 111. Who would have thought that given how the season finished last year?
Yeah, Ferrari.
And they have a better driver lineup this year.
Yeah. If McLaren just need to do what they do and they're gonna have a repeat.
Yeah, because the McLaren boys are pretty much they're gonna score points. They're gonna score points. Because again, it's a solid lineup. Once they stay on track.
Yeah, barn reliability and accident, I think they're gonna be top 5 every single weekend.
Yeah, and given how bulletproof these power units are, pretty much, yeah. Because when was the last time we saw a Mercedes power unit blow up? The biggest we've ever seen a Mercedes power unit blow up in this era was 2016. I guess I'm lumping
a lot of stuff into reliability, right?
Yeah, I know. Yeah, but I get what you're saying. So, but Ferrari for me, look. I said in my space, and I know a lot of Team LH are gonna crucify me for saying this because they already have me as some form of Judas as it is.
Let's hear it. Spit it out.
I've made my peace knowing that Lewis is not going to win an 8th championship. Because he's in a team that I don't think can give him that. I just don't see Ferrari being capable of building a car good enough that would allow him to compete for an 8th championship. And even if they did, operationally, they're going to screw up somewhere.
To give him that shot, he would have had to go home.
Where? McLaren?
Yeah.
Yeah, that wasn't going to happen.
No, I'm just saying like that would have been the most realistic for him to get at.
Yeah, I think this is Lewis's last contract in Formula 1. Once the 2027 season finishes, I think he should just say,
Let me retract that. Because obviously there's rumors out there about the Mercedes power plant and all this stuff. And whenever there's regulation change, man, you never know who's going to come out the gate.
Yeah, you never know, but we know who's not going to come out on top.
You're just going to throw Ferrari out there like that?
I mean, we have history, right?
Yeah, you never know.
But we have history. We have years of history to show that, yeah, that's not going to be them. It's not going to be them. Look, I'm a Lewis fan forever. I'm a lifer. Been here since junior days. But again, it's a team that I don't have no faith in. Lewis isn't my concern. My concern is the team he's driving for. I don't trust him.
Hey man, just know that you get that money. Ferrari's just blacklisting you. You'll never drive a Ferrari talking this.
Hey dude, bro. I go over to that mad scientist over in Sweden and get one of them Koenigsegg. That's what I get rather than the Ferrari right now. But
yeah, that's where we're at with Ferrari and Lewis at the moment, right? So let's see what Bahrain brings. Let's see if that upgrade does anything for them.
That upgrade has to work. It has to.
So let me ask you this before we move on to our next topic. So you said it, but I just want to confirm that's what you meant. So you're saying that if this upgrade doesn't work, Ferrari's season is doomed.
Pretty much, yeah.
And you're saying that with your chest out, right?
Chest out, everything up, bro. I'm putting it on the line. I don't care. People can. If I'm wrong, I'll take whatever mudslinging comes my way. But their season relies on this upgrade because, again, if it doesn't work, they're gonna have to find out why it doesn't work, right? Fix that problem, right? And then after fixing that problem, then they can start thinking about adding performance. By that point in time, they're left behind.
All right, the horses has left the horse.
The horses have left the carriage is running without a horse, bro. Carriage have square wheels on it.
Talk about the rest of the horses on the track. Ferrari's a horse, but they're getting left behind.
That's a donkey. Anyway, never mind.
Listen, they need to change the logo from a horse to a donkey. That's disrespectful.
Hey, look, man, I'm seeing online die-hearted, devoted Italian Ferrari followers, much older than I am. People who've written about Ferraris complaining, saying the same thing. I saw a guy saying, the same thing, like, this thing keeps happening at some point. What's going on in the Ferrari technical department? What's going on? But like I say, regulation change, I've seen too many regulation change and see where Ferrari falls in that metric to go, yeah, you're not that, guys.
Yeah, optimistic about it. All right, then.
No.
Cool.
I'm happy to be proven wrong, though.
Yeah, you heard it. Thanos 876 said if this upgrade in Bahrain 2025 that Ferrari's bringing does not work, they're doomed.
Yeah, so, season over. Just season over.
All right, then. Yeah, let's touch on this. Yuki and the Lawson swap. What do you make of it?
People want. It was more. Yuki proved why they should have swapped them. Why Lawson shouldn't have gotten the seat in the first place. Because I think I put out a tweet that Lawson qualified P14 in a car that Yuki got into Q3. Yuki qualified in a car that P15 in a car that Lawson couldn't get out of Q1. Yuki finished P12 in a car that Lawson finished, I think, P18 in. Lawson finished P12 in a car that Yuki scored points in. And the only reason why Lawson finished... No, hold on. Let me see if I get that right. Yuki finished P12 in a car that Lawson finished P12 in. And the only reason why Lawson finished P12 in China was because of the disqualifications, which means he would have finished P15, right? Lawson finished P12, I think he finished. P12.
Race?
Yeah. I think he finished P12. Race? Yeah. Yeah. In where did he finish? Let me just check and tell you where he finished.
Japan?
Yeah. Lawson. He finished 17th.
17th, yeah. I'm thinking.
Yeah. What? So he finished 17th in a car that Yuki finished Yuki scored points in. I'm sure Yuki finished China. Yuki finished
12.
In China. Yuki finished 16.
Oh, China. Okay.
Yeah, but Australia. Where did Yuki finish in Australia? Yuki finished 12. But I'm sure Yuki has points, doesn't he? Yeah, he has some points. I'm sure Yuki has points. Hold on. Let me just see the results. Yeah, Yuki has 3 points. Oh, that was in the sprint race. Scored 3 points in the sprint race. So it showed, you saw it from FP1 that, yeah, they made the right decision because not even in practice sessions was Lawson anywhere close to Max.
Yeah.
And Yuki did the bit, because, like I said, what I use for my measuring stick was, if Yuki made it all Q3, he did better than Lawson. That's all he had to do.
And also, there's also a caveat to all of that too.
Mm-hmm.
We also got to think about the aspect as to why they say the second seat is just the poison chance, because they say it's a difficult car to drive, right?
Mm-hmm.
So for Yuki to take it out of, to not qualify last basically, and to actually put in some good laps in qualifying, and his first time out in the car, you got to give it to him.
Yeah, and the thing is, they messed up his run in Q2. That's the reason why he didn't make it out in Q2. They messed up his run, and they put a barn door on the back of his car. So he had literally had no straight line speed. But he got out qualified by Lawson, and he passed him on the first lap. So Yuki already proved that, yeah, you were right. You shouldn't have given him the seat in the first place. Because I think if Yuki had at least that day and a half for testing, maybe he would have, the opening 3 races would have been completely different.
Yeah.
Because, again, Max is the only one that scored points.
It's basically
the 61 points that Red Bull as a constructor is because of Max. It's all Max. But for Yuki, I think it was a success. I saw Jack Villeneuve saying, yeah, this is not what they wanted from the second seat. But I'm like, yo, it's the first time he's sat in that car and driven it. And to, do what he did, qualified where he qualified, finished where he qualified, I think you can kind of it was a good weekend for him.
Yeah, considering it's as we say, it's his first time in a car that they say is difficult to drive, and he didn't crash it. He brought it home. He didn't qualify last. He didn't finish last. Right? He's doing his thing. Let's see where he ends up throughout the season.
And the thing is, here's my question. When they say it's a difficult car to drive, define difficult?
No, I'm not saying that. That's why.
No. I know you're not saying it, but everyone keeps saying it's a difficult car to drive. It's this, and I'm like, no one has explained why it's difficult to drive. And I think,
I guess they're saying it's a very pointy car. It's a very front end happy car. It's really sharp on the front end.
Okay, but because it's a more front limited. Does that necessarily mean it's a difficult car to drive? I think what they're going off of is
the Albon interview.
They're looking at the what was 2023 was the what? RB19, wasn't it? Max drove the RB9 because this is the RB21. So 24 was the 20, so the RB19. Right? Is it the 19? I think it was the 19. I think it's the 19. I don't know, whatever. They're looking at that car.
The 20. Last year would have been the 20, right? Yes.
Yeah, last year would have been the 20. So it's the RB19. I think what they're doing, they're looking at how good the RB19 was. and how easy it was for Max to extract performance from it. And because now he doesn't have that luxury, right? And others are in the mix. And because he has a few snap oversteer there and a few difficult, they're saying it's a difficult car to drive. But then when you see him put a lap together, it looks perfectly fine. So
yeah, because I'm looking at it when they say difficult, I'm not saying it's difficult for Max. I guess I was just looking at it based on difficult for the other drivers who actually drives the car, right? I don't think it's a difficult car to drive for Max. But at the same time, I see what they're trying to do. They're trying to make it seem like Max is driving a handful.
Yeah, he's performing above and beyond the limits of the car, which is practically impossible to do.
Because they're basically trying to make it like, if you put another great driver in that car, say if you put like a Charles in it, or a Russell, or even the same Lando or whoever, they're making it seem like that would be like a second grid car, right? But with Max in it, it's he's putting it up there. But I see I've seen this before, man. I've seen.
Yeah, they're trying to spin a narrative to say, again, Max is performing miracles with a car that's shouldn't be where it is. I'm like, sorry, are we looking at the same car?
You don't need to, because at the end of the day, I rate Max highly. I think he's a great driver. You cannot take that away from the guy. So they don't need to be over. What's the word I'm looking for?
Overcompensating.
Yeah, they don't need to overcompensate, oversell him as, yeah, we know the guy is great. Anyone who doesn't know that is just crazy.
Yeah,
right? The guy can drive, right?
It's madness. It's madness, bro. They keep talking about Max is driving, and I'm like, Max has never driven anything as bad as like the W13. Never.
In Red Bull, Max hasn't driven a bad car.
Max has never been given a turbo car since he joined Red Bull. Never. So the idea that somehow they're trying to sell it that, this RB21 it's a handful, it's a bucking oh, shut up.
Yeah, so you're saying that just to keep on track. So you're saying Yuki's debut in the Red Bull was a success in your eyes?
Yeah, to me it was, because again,
based on what you're comparing it to.
Not only just him getting on to Q3, because Larson couldn't even do that for Christ's sake, but on the basis that it was his first time sitting in the car, and he pretty much, as you said, he brought it home. No incidents, nothing whatsoever. I think he can look at that as a positive and build from it. Because again, I think he would have made it to Q3 had they not messed up his run.
Okay.
So,
all right, then.
Yeah.
That's fair enough.
But let's see how he goes in Bahrain. And I think he's going to have to get a bit of time.
Yeah. I think if he's not, as long as he's not qualifying at the back like his predecessor.
Yeah.
As long as he's not qualifying at the back, and as long as if he could find himself getting that thing out to the final part of qualifying.
If he gets into Q3, he's going to score points.
He's good, right? So let me ask you this. So that's us with Yuki and Lawson. Yuki's debut was a success compared to what the metrics were, right? So Ajar Antonelli continues to impress. That's our next topic. But let's just throw the other rookies in it, right? Let's just throw the other rookies in it. And so it's Ajar and Antonelli who is actually doing the business, right?
And
Antonelli's
I think don't disregard Behrman in it, because he's qualifying well.
No. I'm just saying they're the ones that, right? Behrman he's doing his thing as well, right? I think he's doing a good job. The reason why I said let's throw all the rookies in it, right? Because some of the rookies are in decent enough teams, decent enough cars. Because the reason why I said that, let me look back at the kid, Bertoletto.
Driving the kick Sauber,
right? And I brought him up because the thing is, his issue is just the team that he's driving for. As to why he's not getting any of the shine. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, but he was never going to really get any shine, given that that's where no one's really going to go into the kick Sauber and get any limelight, are they?
Yeah, but I just wanted to bring him up because he it's like now, if you're not an F1 fan, you probably think there's only Antonelli and thinking as rookies on the grid, right? Because
yeah, but at the same time, that's to be expected. Again, he's in a team whereby they're never going to really do much in a race other than get lapped for you to kind of like talk about him.
I guess I was just trying to process this. Now I know what let me process. So I finished processing it now. I guess I'm saying someone like a Bertoletto, right, is more of his true talents aren't being shown.
Yeah,
He's
but
he's
for, right? I mean, that's pretty much kind of like standards in some ways, to be honest. Because of the five, because I think there's 5 rookies, aren't there? There's Antonelli, Ajar, Behrman, Doohan, and Bertoletto. So they're 5.
I saw something where recently they're saying that they're classing Lawson as a rookie because he hasn't done a full season.
I don't know what they're talking about. Lawson did 11 races before this year, so he's not a rookie. Yeah, so I mean, so these 3 guys, they're in teams that are far more visible, that are more likely to score points, etc. So obviously they're going to get the limelight. And right now, I think all 3 of them are showing good representation of themselves. Because what's that? Behrman has 5 points? His team is Ocon, so he has 5 points. He has half the amount of points as Ocon. Hajar, what am I saying? Yeah, Behrman has 5. Hajar has 4. He scored points in his first point score was in that just this past weekend, right? But yeah, so that's pretty much standard. But right now, if you look at it, top of the class is Kimi Antonelli, easily. And yes, he's in a better team and a better car. But you can see why Toto Wolff and many other people rate him that highly. And I think Lewis also rates him very highly as well. You can see why,
And
because
the thing is, he's keeping it on track, which is
he's had some off track excursions as well. But
I mean, when I say that, I mean like he's finishing his races, right? He's every race so far he's finished. Because he could have easily dumped it like everyone in Australia as a rookie, right? He just kept his head and he just keeps doing his thing, keeps chipping away.
Because he has what? He's only 15 points behind George in the standings, 45 to 30. You know what I mean? So the kid is definitely doing his thing. He's definitely performing as expected, even though, what's that? Autosport's trying to say that Lewis's 2007 points record, Anthony could smash it, and I'm like, yo, you can't. That's a poor metric because, I mean, they even got community note. They got community noted because that was just stupid, man. I mean, it's 2 different point system, and someone worked it out. He'd need to score 265 points on the current rules to break that record. And he'd have done it. That.
And it's funny you raised that up. You raised that whole thing, right? Some of these publications they have media passes, media credentials, and the things that they write, I'm like, there should be rules where some of these credentials get taken away.
Yeah, I mean, the right likes how some people tweet.
I'm like,
some of the things they write is like they see someone tweet something and decide, let me run with that. Like, come on.
The thing that I find, a lot of them, they're taking stuff from social media.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Let's see what people tweet.
It's crazy.
Let's see what people tweet and then decide to run with it. Because I remember I tweeted something once, and I think Autosport or one of them publications literally stole the tweet. And I had to quote them back and started to laugh and said, no, y'all stealing tweets. Come on, man. Be better than that. So, but as I said, Hajar and Antonelli right now, and Beerman, we have to give Ollie Beerman a little shout out, because did he not qualify? He made it to Q3, qualified P10, ahead of, I'm sure he qualified P10, ahead of Ocon, more illustrious teammate. Hold on, let me see if he qualified.
And what's he looking at that?
Yeah. He qualified P10, Ocon qualified P18.
And that's great. And and it's fun mentioning Beerman, right?
Mm-hmm.
We're gonna run it back a little bit just on one of the topics that this is how, when he came in, was it last year, came in and deputized for Sainz?
Yeah, in Jeddah.
That tells you how good that Ferrari was, right? He came in, got bolted in, he did well, right? I'm sure if they gave him this year's car, that's probably wouldn't happen. To show you that they
I agree. I don't think that would happen.
Yeah, they took a step backwards. They need to fix that. Now when I'm thinking about it, right? They took a big step backwards.
Which is why we need to see what happens. Which is why I say I think this upgrade package this weekend is going to be crucial.
Okay, all right. And so we did why you got to put Alonso on the list? Alonso finally finishes a race. You want to expound on that?
The oldest rookie in Formula 1 finally gets classified and finishes a race. Still no points. He's still trading his more illustrious teammate, Lance Stroll, because in the standings, Stroll has 10 points? Yeah, I mean, like I keep tweeting, they need to put him to a glue farm, send him to a glue farm. And Alonso is more interested in hyping up Max and his performances than actually sorting his own shit, his own house out.
Did he make a mistake now, or was that what you meant to say?
He made a mistake, didn't he?
No, I'm talking about.
With what?
Were you meant to say that his more illustrious teammate? Lance
his
Stroll?
more illustrious teammate Lance Stroll, showing him up right now. So that tells you how bad he is, because there's nothing illustrious about Lance. So
wow, man.
So he's stinking up the place, man.
Hey, man,
He needs to go to a glue farm. I don't know why. Aston is holding on to him. And I don't even know why they're going into a new set of regulations with him anyway. So yeah, I mean, anybody who turns around and tell Lewis Hamilton he's responsible for people being racist towards him can never escape my crosshair. He's in my line of sight every day.
Right.
Every day.
All right, so I think we covered everything that we wanted to cover this cover from this race. We kind of stretched it because, trust me, there wasn't a lot that happened. But
hold on. There's one thing we probably should discuss though. Let me get your opinion on this. So, this talk about they want to scrap the power units that's coming in next year. Apparently, it's a 5-year cycle, right? But they want to scrap it after 2 years and move over to V10s, naturally aspirated V10s with 100% sustainable fuel. Again, this is an MBS sort of proposal. I think he's working on behalf of Red Bull. To what the reports are saying, Red Bull, Ferrari, and I believe Honda are happy with this suggestion. But Mercedes and Audi are like, yeah, no, we're not having that. You can't. I think what they're not in agreement with is cutting the 5-year cycle early, in cutting it into after 2028, because I think that would just be a waste of money for all of these teams. Now, I've had this conversation with people and they keep talking about going back to V10s, and I'm like, what's the benefit of going back to V10s? Well, I'm hearing people saying about, smaller, lighter engines, the cars will become smaller, etc., etc., etc. And I'm like, I remember, can't remember who it was. I believe it was either James Allison or Paddy Lowe some years back said, the only reason why the cars are so long, they don't have to be as long as they are. The only reason why they're so long is because of air. Because the more surface area you have, apparently the better your air is. And that's the only reason why they're so long. They don't have to be so long. It seems like it's a deliberate thing from the team. Because if you watch how from 2005 onwards, how the cars gradually kept getting bigger, especially from when the regs changed at the end of 2008 to 2009, you notice cars started to get longer. They weren't wider because the width was predefined, but they were getting longer and longer and longer as the years pass. Look at 2013. People are saying, yeah, but they had the curves and the battery, and I'm like, well, the battery is pretty much under the engine, under the floor. There's no reason for it to be that long. So it's a deliberate choice by the teams to make them that longer. And I'm like, okay, cool. But most of the reason why people want the V10s back is because of noise. And I'm like, well, if noise is the reason you want it back, it doesn't, then, what's going on? Huh? Because if you look at it, the old V8s, V10s, etc., they were high revving, but they weren't producing a lot of power.
That's the question. What type of noise? Because technically, the noise, was it the note? Why is it? Because remember, noise.
The noise, the high pitching.
Because you could use the exhaust, right?
Yeah. But the thing is,
you dumb that thing down. So what are they trying to accomplish?
Because the thing is, I think. Hold on. Real Madrid can't be a serious team. Look, because the thing is, the current power units, right? They're limited by the amount of revs they can rev to. Plus, they're limited by the fuel flow. Now, I'm thinking, because we've heard these things in person, and I think they sound great. I don't need that high pitch thing blasting out my eardrum to the point you come home, you get a headache after the race. No.
I love it.
Why not? If you want the noise the level to go up, why not increase the revs and probably give them a bit more fuel? I assume that would work. But what I want to know is, what's your opinion on this? Do you think they should go back to V10s, or they should stick to the current technology that we're having?
The technology that we're having now right? It's actually iron. So a lot of this hybrid stuff is what they're obviously they're using. They're looking at sustainable energy. They're looking at EVs, right, with this battery, and they're looking at hybrids, right? So going back to V10, would potentially defeat, right? Because remember, everything was about the environment. Would that be through fuels, exhaust? Would that be through noise? It wasn't just about just the exhaust fumes. It's also about noise as well, because that's the thing that people fail to understand. There's also what we call noise. What's the word I'm trying to use?
Noise pollution.
Noise pollution, right? So the amount of money that they've invested in these hybrid technologies, it's because you got to remember, a lot of these Mercedes car got hybrid technology in it now, right?
Mm-hmm.
The thing is that they cannot afford to do. I don't think going back to V10, I don't know, because can they make it sustainable? If they could make it sustainable.
Yeah, obviously the fuel, they can make, however, they can make the fuel sustain. Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Yeah, they can make it 100% sustainable fuel. I mean, that's pretty much, I believe the next year power unit is going to be run on 100% sustainable fuel.
The reason why it's tricky for me is because I need to understand the people are saying is, what are they trying to accomplish really? Is it the noise? Is it they want to light a car? What is it? Because what I will say is that based on what you said about Red Bull probably having issues, these car companies cannot make the can company dictate where car goes or the development of car technology goes, right? It would make any sense, because they're the one that's going to have to sell their cars, right? So I can't see Mercedes, Audi. I know Audi's big on this whole hybrid and EV stuff, so
yeah, they're not going to go on board, because again, that's the reason why they came in.
And Audi has no qualms to withdraw from F1. We've seen them. Audi does not play. If it's not like, okay, that's not, okay, we out. We've seen them done it before. We've seen them done it many a times. So I would have to get a bit more, I would have to get a bigger sample size to see what's the whole V10, bring back V10 thing is about. If it's just the noise, the sound of the V8, the V10. Because I'm probably going to go out on a limb and said most people that wants the V10 is just for the noise.
Absolutely.
And if it's just for that, I don't think that's a good enough reason for you to go back to V10 if it's just to get noise.
Because I had a conversation with someone and they were talking about lighter cars, etc. And I'm like, well, the only reason why the cars got so heavy is because of all of the increase in safety.
What kind of lap time are we looking at if they're saying, because you got to look at this as well. So you want to go back to V10. You're saying that the cars would be lighter. So what type of lap time are we looking at?
Is it lap time they're looking at, or they're looking at raceability?
That's what I'm trying to figure out, right? Is it going to make the car smaller? Because these cars are big.
Yeah, they're like what?
Right.
5, 6 meters, 7 meters or something like that.
Are they going to make the car narrower? Are they going to, what is it? So I have to see a bigger sample size
But even next year's cars, they're supposed to be a bit smaller than the current cars. Again, I'm not on the bandwagon of like bring back V10, because again, this argument is only being made from the standpoint of noise. That's it. And I asked the question, in 2021, did anyone care about the noise? Or did we care about that the product we watched was that good? Because when we had the noise, was the product really that good? Nope. So what's the point? That was the question I wanted to ask. That's the question I wanted to ask anyway.
Yeah, I have to see what the motivations behind that is. What is it that they really want, right? Because people could say we want V10 back, but you got to ask them why. What are your motivation? What are you looking to accomplish getting V10s back? I personally don't care. I don't care. As long as I get good racing, I don't care if you got V18s or V2s. I just want great racing. That's my thing. I just want great racing. And I want technologies that some of what you could potentially transfer onto road-going vehicles, right?
Mm-hmm.
So I would have to see, get a bigger sample size to kind of get a feel for what people are actually, as to why they want V10.
Yeah, I think it's all down to noise.
Yeah, well, if it's down to that, yeah, they could keep that. I'm cool.
Yeah,
right.
True.
Do some. If you want more noise, do something with the exhaust. I just say increase revs, do something with the exhaust notes and all that stuff. Yeah, you could do that with the exhaust if it's just noise that they want, right? And that's my take on that. Right. So yeah, let's look at this. Let's rate the race.
2 out of 10.
2 out of 10. Yeah, I'm probably going. It's crazy. I'm going safe, but I'm probably going to go with run about that. It was just uneventful. I didn't see anything that was exciting. It was just a bore fest. It was horrible. I just put that. It was a horrible race. Like,
yeah,
you know.
I'm surprised we managed to get this much out recording out of it.
Yeah, me too. It was just an uneventful race. Apart from Max's super lap, he led from start to finish.
Not really. Kimi led a couple laps.
Yeah, well, Kimi led a couple laps.
He now has the record for the youngest driver to lead laps.
Yeah, all right. On technicals, yeah, he led a couple laps. Lando went cross off-roading, and
man barely went off-roading. Right, going off-roading.
McLaren messed up their strategy. As you say, I think they could have done a better strategy, risk a little bit more. But yeah, let's see what Bahrain brings. That's this week.
Yep.
What are your predictions on that one?
My prediction is I pray Lewis just have a car that is good and he doesn't have any issues with, and he can actually drive, finish the race, and we don't hear, oh yeah, there's something wrong with the car. I don't want to hear that this week. Sorry.
Okay. Well, I guess that's it for the Japanese F1 Grand Prix review. Suzuka 2025, very uneventful. Max Verstappen win. Max Verstappen Super Pole. Lewis
closes the gap to the McLaren now to 1 point. Yep.
To McLaren or to Lando?
To Lando. To 1 point.
Okay. Yeah, let's see. Well, it's racing is from here on out. Let's see. May the best man win.
Let's see
how that goes. All right. And once again, you've been watching the Grand Prix Project podcast. The Grand Prix Project podcast is actually, the website is actually now, it's the Grand Prix Project, www.thegrandprixproject.com, right? Where you could actually see the episodes, the videos. We're start putting out the videos now. So I think the first video is up from the last race.
It's on YouTube, right?
It's on YouTube, and it's also on the website. You could actually, it's embedded in the website. That's there. Follow us on Twitter, and the Grand Prix Project Pod. YouTube is the same, the Grand Prix Project Podcast Pod. Right. So yeah, we're up now. We got our official website. So that's good. That took me some time. To get it. I wanted it. But yeah, that's there now. www.thegrandprixproject.com. To the GP Project Podcast is where we're at on YouTube. I'm gonna see if I could release some more stuff on the channel. I'm working on the quota videos to release those as we go. I think I'm going to release them in like 30-minute segment, 25-minute segment, 15-minute segment, because there's a lot of footage, but some of it's just throwaway. So I'm figuring that out. All right. So once again, thank you for watching the Grand Prix Project with me, host Andre Miller, and the big bro, the co-host
Thanos 876.
All right. Thank you guys for listening. Appreciate y'all.
We out.
Thank you for listening to the Grand Prix Project podcast.